All righty. Hope everyone is having a good morning this morning. Just to go ahead and let everybody know, since you're seeing a blank screen on the bottom, unfortunately, we've had a little bit of technical difficulties with Mr. Chuck's camera. From our little test run we ran last week, we've ran into a bit of an issue, but not to worry. He's going to join us for today, and he will be back to do a solo show with us to cover more in depth of his personal story and personal history. And we'll make sure his camera is working and you all get to see his pretty face while he's talking to us and sharing stories. But as y'all probably recognize up top with me, that's Mr. Keith, who we had on, it's been, I think, 2 weeks now or so.
And almost a month.
Almost a month. Good Lord. He was with RT Indigo as well. Mr. Chuck was with RT Indigo. And I thought since we got a new member here, I thought we'd just let Mr. Chuck tell a little bit about his history. And again, we'll get into more of that on his personal story. But Mr. Chuck, where I won't go into too deep, but basically run down where were you born? Did you have family military history, and what made you want to get into the military?
Okay, I was born in Lafayette, Louisiana. And that's where we're still at. I'm back here now. But anyway, I'll make this brief. I went to school, Catholic school in Lafayette. I graduated from high school. I went to college for a couple of years. Is that thing sounding all right to y'all?
Sounds like somebody's doing yard work in the background.
I got a fan blowing on mine. Mine's cooling off here, it looks like. So.
Okay. I didn't know what that was.
Well, no switch. Anyway, I got out of high school and I went to college for a couple of years, but I wasn't doing too much. I was just messing around. Hello?
Can you hear me, Mr. Chuck?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
I cut that noise off on Mr. Keith's mic.
Yeah, everything went down. But anyway, I went to college, and with a couple of friends of mine, we wasn't doing too much. Anyway, I saw the movie The Green Berets. So I said, that looks like something I'd like to do. I was tired of school. I wasn't doing well. So anyway, me and my two buddies decided we were going to join. We went to New Orleans. They tested us and all, and they said, I told them what I wanted. I wanted to enlist for that. So they said, look, they talked to us. You need to see, would you be interested in the ASA, the Army Security Agency? I said, I don't know. He said, it's much better than Special Forces. You'll be in on the thick of things and all. I said, I didn't know. So I said, okay. So that entailed enlisting for another year. I was going to enlist for 3 years. So that pushed it to 4. So we didn't know any better. We jumped in. Next thing you know, we're going to basic training. We went to basic training in Fort Jackson, Columbia, South Carolina. From there, we didn't know what was going to happen there. Then when we got orders, I got orders. My two friends went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I ended up with orders in Monterey, language school. So I got over there, and that isn't what I wanted. I didn't want to go back to school. I wanted to get in Special Forces. So it just so happens at the same time, some twin brothers, Jim, Bob Woodham, were in the same basic training. They were from Chicago. Anyway, we all got sent to Monterey for language school. We were all in German language school. So we got to talking about it, and they had the same mindset more or less than I did. They didn't particularly want to, sit behind the desk and all. So we said, I want to get into Special Forces. So we went down to the recruiter there in Monterey. He said, I'll tell you what. He said, that's what y'all want to do. He said, you're going to have to go through basic infantry training. And then you're going to have to go through jump school. You're going to have to take that. And then you're going to have to go through training group, get accepted. He said, it's up to you. If you don't want to do it, once you leave the Presidio, he said, you're not going back. You have to infantry he said, no, we want to go. So they took us out of the Presidio, sent us to Fort Ord to infantry AIT. So we finished that. Then we both went, we went to jump school, Fort Benning, got through that, and we went to Fort Bragg. From there, we kind of split up. We went through, that hill night and all through the first phase. And when we came out, when they gave us, the MOS choice, they were medics. They both went to Texas, and I stayed there at Fort Bragg with the 05 radio operator, which I didn't particularly want. But anyway, so that's after we finished that, like I said, Bob and Jim, they went to that medic MOS for like a year, so they were gone. When I finished at 05B, they sent me to the 10th Special Forces in Fort Lauderdale. And I stayed up there, I guess, about a year and a half, and I decided, and it was good. I got to do a lot of stuff up there. We went to Alaska for training. We had a training exercise, flintlock in Europe and all. And I wanted to, I put in a transfer. I'd like to see about going to Vietnam. And I got it, fortunately, and they sent me to the Recon school at Fort Bragg before we went to Vietnam. That was like 3 or 4 weeks. And then the next thing I know, I'm over there. I got into in-country about in the beginning of 1971, March, April, somewhere around there. And from there, I just got onto once you arrived, they put you up. Went to the train. They said, well, you're going CCN. I said, well, we didn't know anything. So I ended up there, got into the camp, and that's when I ended up. They said, well, you're going to be on RT Indigo. When I got there, ended up, Jessie was there and Kevin Smith. So that was it. I got onto that team, and then it worked out, good from there. I stayed on Indigo until I left country. Keith came a little later, after the summer, probably July, August, somewhere in there. But that, when I first got in there, they put me on you get all your stuff. I'd done a little, got to know everybody and stuff, got all our stuff. The first thing I did, they sent me up to Fubai with like a strap hanger on one of the teams that was just up there in reserve in case one of the teams out in the field got in trouble. And after that, that was probably the first real experience being in Vietnam. I forgot who I was there with, but I can remember we were walking down the road in Fubai, and we heard M16 go off. Just. So another guy was there, I guess a medic. He had run in. The Vietnamese had a hatchet force up there in the barracks. When I walked in, medic was already there. There was a young Vietnamese guy standing over a buddy laying in the bed. And what had happened is they were playing grab ass. One with the M16, I guess, just hit the trigger by mistake. And loaded the barrage. It hit in his bed. He was just open from about his belly button up to his neck. Well, the guy who I was there with, he must have been a medic. He grabbed a pill and shoved it in that kid's chest, and and then it was it wasn't great. But anyway, he was dead. I mean, you know, his eyes were glassy and all. But that's when you get the first realization of, you know, how, you know, you see your own mortality, you know. So then I got back to, we didn't get sent out or anything. I got back, and then Jessie was always on some kind of details that we weren't up to snuff on. He was in like on the halo jump and all, and you know, he'd just be gone. But anyway, I got back there with me and Kevin and Jessie and Lieutenant Rohen and Dunnam up there. And Keith will remember. I'm not sure who that guy was when we were on that mountaintop. You remember Keith Doug? He had that snipe. I forgot his name, but anyway, that was the first time I went out in the field. We got up on that mountaintop. We were up north in the Ashaw Valley, kind of to the east, yeah. And Doug, that's that's Kevin Smith and me in the back, and then Rohen and Dunnam and George. And like I say, I can't remember Doug's name. I think Jessie was taking that picture. That's why he's not in there. But anyway, we stayed up there for, I'd say, I don't know, 6-7 days. In the meantime, we were up on kind of a hilltop, and it was kind of weird. They had plenty of people around down below us. They never came up. They couldn't come up because it was a pretty steep climb all the way around. So one night, we were there a couple of days. We started getting some, you know, they started trying to make their way up. So we were throwing grenades off of the top of the mountain stuff down on them. And they came up, and we didn't have much of an area up at the top. So something happened. I don't know if Kevin Smith was there and Jessie were around the side. Somehow one of them had got up close enough and thrown a grenade up on top of the mountain. Anyway, Kevin somehow picked it up and threw it back down. And he got awarded, I think, a Silver Star for what had happened in there, because they were coming up. And one night we were up there. Like I say, every night we were getting, you know, I guess they were trying to encroach, get up to the top, and they couldn't do it because we always had plenty of people. And those yards, I mean, we had brought pallets, we had water, we had a handheld mortar, we had M60 machine gun. But we were planning on staying up there for a while. And one night as they were encroaching, I forgot if it was Rohen or the lieutenant had called in and had told them that we were getting, trying to get encroached on 3 sides all the way around. So they asked if he wanted to send up maybe a puff or something, or a Spectre. And he said, yeah, we had a transponder with us too on the top of the hill. So at one night he called in, and that's something amazing to see we didn't have much room up there. And I mean, they just peppered it all the way around us. I mean, circuit, you could hear the plane. I guess it was 123 or 130. And they were just, I mean, blasted. I guess that lasted for about 20, 30 minutes. Then things kind of calmed down. We settled down, and then that was it. And then while we were up there, another team. I don't remember the other team was, but they came in there early one morning. They were going to try and do a walk-off and go down, see if they could get down and see what was going on, because we never left the top of where we were, the hillside. But they went down, and man, it wasn't, 30 minutes later, they encountered, all kind of fire. They were getting shot up. They came back up as quick as they could back up to the top. So anyway, they got them all back up. Nobody was shot or injured. And they evacuated them out. And then the next day or two came up, they got us out of there, and brought in another. They replaced us with another team. And we were like a heavy team because we had the 2 lieutenants, we had Doug and me, Jessie, and Kevin. And it was amazing. Up at the top of that thing, you could see down to the north. They had a road that was coming down from north to south. But you couldn't see it in the daytime because of the jungle and all. But at night, you could see the lights, the truck lights. It was like convoys coming down there. And further off to the north, you could see the B-52 strikes. I mean, it was like a fireworks 4th of July just about every night. It would you could hear them and you could see the explosions. It was something. So like I said, then we got pulled out. We got back to Da Nang to CCN, and then I went out a couple of other times. I would strap hang sometimes. I've been out on some teams with I went out once with Scott Case and Charlie Bustler. And I remember you were talking to Keith about that Pathfinder, and I don't remember if it was at SOAR. I had talked to Charlie Bustler at SOAR. He was there one time before he died, and we were talking. I don't know if he did it after he had gotten out of the I think he had gone back into the reserves after he got back. But he had told me he had gone to Pathfinder, and I don't know if he had done that before Vietnam or after, but he had gone through Pathfinder school, and he was explaining some stuff that they had done in the reserves. So, but like I say, Scott and I were pretty good friends. We had kind of come in at the same time. So if anybody needed anybody, I would kind of volunteer. I went out once with Von Bell and a guy named Thomas Fitzgerald. He was a big, tall guy. When we went out with Charlie, and Charlie was good. He was like Jessie and Kevin to them. We went out and we stayed out about 5 days. I mean, we moved, never contacted anybody. And I think this is all before Keith got there. And this was in the summer. And then I had gone out with Von Bell and them. We had gotten deployed. We got off the choppers. And Fitzgerald was a big, tall, kind of an Irish guy. He went in with an M60 machine gun. He had it and the ammo. We got off the chopper on the side of a hill. We walked. Everybody got out. The choppers left. We moved up. We were going to set up camp. So we had been there, I guess, 45 minutes or an hour. And the next thing you know, we start hearing like some pans banging and stuff. And just like they're banging on some kettles and stuff, and it's coming toward us and stuff. So Vaughn says, well, I wonder, we didn't know what to shoot. And we had gotten put in the afternoon. It was getting to be a little late. And where we had gone in, the LC was a lot of high grass and stuff. The choppers could get down to drop us off. But, we had to jump out. Fitzgerald jumped out and kind of hit his head on the M60, busted him across the forehead. So he was bleeding a little bit, had nothing serious, but a cut. So anyway, we got up there, and then we one of the yards or something up there, we could hear they were getting closer. Then we heard some shots. And so the next thing we started hearing some. So they I don't know who started it, but just they started unloading. And so the next thing we know, Vaughn got on the radio, and it looked like they were trying to, trying to get around us. So back at we called in Covey, and he couldn't see because at the top of the hill we were in the jungle. You couldn't really see down into it. But they asked Vaughn, what do you think? And I'm probably not the bravest guy in the world for sure, but I didn't particularly see. I agreed with Vaughn. I don't think that we, if we can get out, we need to. If we don't get out now, it was kind of like Christmas Eve. If you try and stay there all night, you don't have to worry. You're not going to get out. So anyway, Vaughn called. They exfilled us. They picked us up. As we were leaving, man, the choppers got shot up. Those gunners on those Hueys, I mean, they were unloading and when we got back, they inspected us on the choppers. They had some shots through them, but I don't think it was a large group of people. It was, maybe a scout party up front, because they didn't have any real heavy-duty, powerful shit. Just, some AKs and stuff. And that's, like I say, I did, because it wasn't much fun sitting around, not. All the time, if you weren't training, if you weren't out at the range, or if you weren't over at the propelling platform, we sat around and played cards a lot. Me, Bruce Bird, Bill Raimondi, Scott Case, played hearts and spades and stuff. And so that's kind of how it was. And then, like I say, Jessie and after we came back off of that first mountain, I think that's when Kevin left. Kevin went to Connecticut, I think, and he became the 1-0. And Jessie was the 1-0 of Indigo. And then Keith came in. And I don't know if we had gone off, if we had gone out yet. We went, Keith and I and Jessie went out on some stuff. But anyway, after Keith got there, and I'm from Louisiana, we're used to hurricanes and stuff. That October, we had that hurricane, that Typhoon Hester came through there. And our CCN, we were right on the beach. I mean, not right on the beach, we were on the beach. It's like a resort. Only it wasn't quite a resort. But man, that thing came through there and just tore up the place. It hit, the eye hit a little north of us. And but Da Nang was messed up. I mean, all the buildings were messed up. It blew all the roofs off of a bunch of the hooches down there, the little people's hooches and teams. Ours, we had some damage too. And that's why that picture that I had sent you with Keith and Jessie, when we had to redo our hooch too. So when we did, Jessie had gone, the roof was all screwed up inside. Jessie had gone and got us a reserve chute, parachute. I don't know from where, from S4. And when we came back, we remodeled the inside. We had put that chute up over the top. And in that picture, you can see it hanging down, Jessie and Keith. That was the roof, and we had put up a bunch of mats on the side. That's some healthy looking dudes, huh? It's amazing. And I don't know if Keith was there. We had a big guy. I'm kind of getting off track, but we had a big guy there, Smith. I don't know if it was Andre Smith or John. He had, and I don't know if he wasn't the 1-0 of Connecticut before this, but he had a boa constrictor, a snake that he carried around that was probably 10 feet. And I can remember one day we had gone over there to the club because our hooch was, across the street from the NCO club. And he had brought that big snake in there, and those girls and the barmaids in that NCO club, they were scared shitless. He put that thing on the floor, and he had a chicken tied up by its legs and stuff. and he threw that thing on the floor in there. And that I stayed around for a little while. Those girls, they were shit. And that big snake went over there and grabbed that chicken and swallowed it and ate it right there on the floor. We got some people. It's unbelievable. It really is. It was great. So, like I said, when Keith got there, man, we did a lot of stuff too. Like I said, with Christmas and some other stuff that we went on. But I believe, and then that one picture I sent you is when Kevin left and Jessie took over and came back. We had most of the team stayed with us. But that picture I sent you, that one mountain, that 1 yard this morning, was Coy, and he was the 1-0 when I first got there. The 0-1 for our team, and I think Kevin had got those, had got those people. And I think when Kevin left, I don't know what happened. We got Ya in there with us. He ended up being our 1-0, and I think Coy went with Kevin to the other team. I think him and Kevin were tight. So it was yeah. And
Jason Hardy used this photo in one of his books. Actually, I recognize that steely-eyed look on that Montagnard. That's a great photo.
Yep. It's
jeez.
Like I say, he was he was a big, strong dude, and him and Yad, and once Yad got on the team, they were both on the team together for a little while, not long. I think, a clash of personalities, and you can't have that. And like I say, I think maybe Kevin had got the one who got Coy there originally, or Jessie, I don't know, but Coy ended up leaving and Yad stayed. Like I say, yeah, I'm not going to, that's,
Yeah, Kevin trained good teams, and it seemed like those Rod A, they shared teams. One would get let go from one team, another one would gobble them up and stuff, and all the Rod A got along pretty good. But Kevin, he was a good trainer, and but he didn't put up with any extra BS from any of the team, and if he didn't like it, then they were gone, and we were glad to gobble them up because they'd been trained well by him.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, all of you guys, Mr. Jessie, I've got a photo of him from when him and Mr. Leon Sonnenberg were at Longton, and it seems like all of y'all were quite good trainers. I mean, it seems like Indigo was a strong team, and Mr. Nick Brockhausen, who told me to tell y'all hello, I'm sure he'll watch this at some point in time. He said y'all were a fantastic team.
Well, that's good to hear from him, but and who would have ever thought we'd be in the presence of a world-renowned author after he got out of the military? But he is very good with words.
He is. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
The first time we'd met him, I'd only been on the team probably a week or two, and we were sitting by our hooch, and Little Mac and Nick came by with their den of thieves, and they were all full of man jewelry and stuff. And I asked Jessie or Chuck, says, who are those guys? And he said, just never mind. And Bob Cook was there. He says, never mind. He says, you'll meet them soon enough. And I said, well, where are they heading? And Chuck says, well, Hanoi, if they'd let them.
Gosh, what a group of guys. So it was Nick, Mr. Cookie, Bobby Cook, and
Len McGowan.
Yeah, Little Mac. Wow, jeez, what a group they were. So Mr. Chuck was there for, as we heard, a period of time before you got there. Mr. Keith, what was it like when you finally got in country and were able to meet Mr. Chuck, the rest of the guys, and did you blend in pretty quick and mesh well with the guys right off the bat?
It's interesting because we got into Nha Trang, shipped up to Da Nang, and got there and placed on a recon team. And quite the first time I met Chuck, we got assigned to a team, and he didn't want any other Americans right now. And he said, "You know how to drive a Jeep?" And I said, "Yeah, I know how to drive a Jeep." He said, "Well, get in and drive it." And we took it to up by the rappelling towers, and he says, "Stay here." And he went over, and someone was over by the rappelling towers, and he beat the dog shit out of a guy there. And he come back and sit in the Jeep. And I said, "Well, what was that for?" And he says, "He asked one too many questions. Any questions?" And I said, No, I'm just fine."
Woo!
And then we went on, and Indigo was, we were slated. We went on a bright light duty up out of Fubai when I was there. And say I didn't go to the in-country 1-0 school. Jesse said he'd talked to JD Bath. JD had actually been in the stateside school, and I think he'd got with Jesse when he got up there and says, "Well, pick this guy for your team if you want." He trained real well and stuff. Yeah, there's a nice picture of JD there. And so we went on bright light duty right away, and we launched. I remember we launched, but we didn't insert. And I think that's when Pee Wee Reese and Indian Adams were in a bunch of trouble. And they'd got extracted before we had to insert. And then, that was the beginning of it. And then after that, we trained with Chuck and Jesse. Jesse was good soldier, as Chuck was also, but spent a lot of time at the range and getting stuff kind of right.
Wow. And when I first started speaking to you gentlemen, it was so interesting because we've most of us on here, and me personally, have been hearing a lot from the guys from 68, 69, around that time period, and here by 71, SOG's a totally different ball game. Y'all are now the task force advisory elements, no more Green Berets, the Black Cats, and hearing y'all just saying y'all are having to even fight to get on the ground, much less stay on the ground in battle, is one of the more interesting parts on how much SOG had changed by the time you men were running recon.
Yeah, it took and it changed. And I don't know when I was there, it was late, of course, but those our air assets, they're the ones that there's, without a doubt, there's no reason any of us recon guys have been alive without them. They saved us. I said they got their testicles attached directly to their spines, and once we got in and got extracted, then they still weren't out of trouble because there was so much AA and AAA in the Ashaw, at least at the time. I think they closed the QT up. They were still using NKP a little bit. I think Quang Tri closed up like in later November, maybe early December. So everybody was out of either NKP or Fubai at that time.
Wow. And mentioning that the Ashaw come up here before we end the show about y'all's infamous Christmas. But again, also, I mean, how many anti-aircraft guns y'all were coming up against? And then I believe Mr. Chuck and Mr. Keith had mentioned not long, either y'all had been on the compound not long after or before the infamous RT Kansas Lauren Hagen Medal of Honor mission, and how they were totally overrun up there.
Yeah, it's and I'm sure Chuck can attest to it because he'd been up on. I don't know how they stayed on those hills that long, but they had good air assets and firepower and stuff because it was just sheer chaos. You just couldn't stay any place very long.
Yeah, it was, and like I say, I was, you know, me and Bruce Berg were pretty good friends. Ramondi was friends. Bill Queen, we were all there, came in, you know, at the time that we came in, and Keith and all of us, it was more toward the end. And I think that the rumor going around that there was, you know, some snitches up down in Saigon that were giving away all this information and stuff. You know, it was bad, because it seemed like anytime anybody went out, or whenever they got inserted, it's like they knew we were coming. You know, they might not have known exactly where, but and you just couldn't stay on the ground long. And I can remember, especially with Bruce, he had come up to me. Like I say, we used to play cards together and all kind of hang around. Me, him, Scott Case, Bill Ramondi, Queen a little bit. He was more a loner. But that's when we had just started getting that. I think when Kansas had that, it was maybe in July or August. And we had just started getting those banana clips for the cars and for the AKs, the 30 round clips. And so he had come up to me one day, and when we first started getting them, it wasn't like everybody could go out there and, you know, you could grab you 15 or 20 of them. I don't know how they came out arbitrarily with the amount of clips that we were going to get. Of course, you know, you couldn't carry that many of them to begin with. But anyway, Bruce had come up and said, look, we're going to be going out here pretty soon or something. He said, you know, would you, if y'all aren't going anywhere, would you mind me just, you know, give me your 30 round clips? I'm going to carry them with us, because it's just going to be an in and out thing. And so I said, well, yeah, no sweat. And so I gave him all the 30 round clips, the banana clips that I had. And then when they went in, you know, it was unbelievable, man, you know, to hear that, you know, that what had happened.
Mr. Plaster's got a great write-up in several of his books. Mr. Nick Brockhausen, of course, mentions it in both of his books. Both of y'all are mentioned in these books, two of my favorite SOG books. It's one hell of a SOG story, just a military story in general, but especially for SOG. I mean, what they were up against is just unbelievable up there on that mountaintop. And you had mentioned the 30 rounders. There's some of the early ones, and it looks like that's Eldon. That's a photo that people have been saying for a long time is not Eldon Bargewell, and I finally found out it was. But
it's Eldon on the left side.
Mm-hmm. And I think that might be Fish Smith. I know that's Mike Morehouse right there without his glasses on. But he's got that almost looks like a 50 round banana in the Car 15, and then Mike with a 30, and then the RPD. But what we're always interested in hearing about, y'all finally getting the 30 rounders that actually worked and wouldn't jam or fall out of y'all's guns when you first started shooting.
But it looked like that. And after we got some of the 30s, some of those guys, when they go out, would tape them
together on the ends. Yep.
Right. Tape them together. That way, if something happened, you could just pop it out and flip it over and get it back in and get started again. So, but it was just, it was more awkward than the regular clip. And, you had to get used to it, catch on stuff. And, but, that's the one thing you never wanted to do was run out of ammo.
God, no. And I spoke to it with Mr. Keith about Jessie always, well, not always, but he was pretty prevalent about wearing the AK chest rig. Did y'all find that y'all enjoyed the chest rig more? Would it carry more, or did y'all stick with the BAR belts and your regular canteen covers?
Well, I personally I got an AK vest. You could carry 6 bags in it, and it not only let you had a little easier access to, you were picking up another 180 rounds of their ammo with you, and it did give you some protection on your chest.
Yeah.
Laying there once you start shooting, you don't realize that you're moving around and have to get at stuff, and if it wasn't accessible, it was just it slowed things down. You didn't want to do that.
Wow.
Yeah, like I said, and Jessie was really Jessie had been there probably a year before us, because Jessie did like maybe almost 2 years at CCN, and whatever he said pretty much went. He wasn't a real hard ass or anything. It was we really got along pretty good, all of us. And Jessie had the perfect temperament, for being a 1-0. He was a super soldier. I guarantee you that was pretty much his life. Because even after he left, when he left the Army, then he went to work for private companies, water and ride and stuff. So he was an ultimate soldier. There were a bunch of them, that were there. And like I say, our team with Jessie, Keith, you couldn't have asked for better. You couldn't have, you put your life in their hands and never even thought about it after that. So it was, it's an experience. And then, you have to have that on a team like that when it's just, 3 of you and maybe 7 or 8 Indians or something.
And like you said, I mean, there's literally no better person to learn, or people, I should say, to learn from at that point in time than Mr. Kevin Smith and Jessie. For like you said, they'd been there so long. I mean, Mr. Jessie and his Halo work with Billy Wall and such. I mean, it seems like y'all are a tight team and pretty damn good in the woods, as you guys would say.
It's kind of amazing that when Jessie went out with Billy Wall and Bath and Strohmeyer and we didn't know. I didn't have any idea until they came back afterwards. They had gone down, I think, to Okinawa and trained before. Jessie was into. He would get called into a lot of stuff. He was, but. Like I said, they were gone for a while. We didn't know, we just hung around there, trained and shit. And then Jessie came back after that happened. And, we went back to work and started getting some other, went out on some other stuff. It was really, it's amazing.
I'm going to just step away a second, bud.
Yes, sir. That's fine. While we're talking here, me and Mr. Keith brought this up, but and we spoke about it offline. Could you tell everybody, because it's popped up online, but could you tell us about when you decided to shave your head completely and cut off all that luxurious red hair of yours?
Yeah, well, that was kind of that being red hair and light skin wasn't a real advantage being in there, but. I hung around with Roger Pope a little bit too.
Yeah,
we were like drinking buddies. One night we had just got kind of
wild thought.
Yeah, and we decided we were going to do that, and so the next day we did. We went down to the latrine and we cut it off, and then we each used a razor, shaved each other's head. It's yeah, that's great. And Jessie, it's unbelievable, man. And then, like I say, I forgot when exactly we did that. It probably had to be before the hurricane and all, from looking at the lights inside. But man, my hair hadn't really grown back by the time I was leaving. So. Yeah, we did some crazy stuff. They had some crazy people over there. I tell you what, it was. But one good thing, I never met anybody over there that I wouldn't have gone out in the field with. That I would have had any hesitation about going out in the field with. And like I say, I feel really blessed that I got on there with Jessie and Keith. you know. I think the Lord was looking out for us because things could have happened. There, see, that's a picture of me and Kevin out there messing around. Kevin had that 203 or whatever, that car 15 with the grenade launcher on the bottom. And
is that why you wear your boonie? Is that why you had your head shaved right then?
I don't think I had my head shaved yet, but I wore that because that red hair was a target, you know. And that's the last thing I wanted to get popped in the head. So
yeah, I can imagine. They don't see many redheads over there. I can't imagine.
No, you're right. Not really.
That's great.
When he and Roger Pope did it, when they went and had Jessie was so damn mad because you could see him coming from 300 meters away with that white head coming. And he said, how the hell are we going to go out here now? You're going to have a head jammed on your head. And they look like a tag team of wrestlers. They're both Roger and Chuck, pretty stout guys. And you'd see him coming walking down the company street there. And Jessie said he'd just shake his head. And I don't know what they were thinking.
Lord have mercy. That also now, because someone had asked about y'all's first meeting, but before that, I've got to know if Billy Wall was around when you did this.
Oh yeah, Billy Wall was there when I got there. Billy and Larry Manis was the CEO. The whole time I was there. So, and I, you know, at that time, I had no idea about, you know, what a legend Billy Wall was and Manis, but he was there from the time that I got there until the end. And when I got there, J.D. Bath, I think, had got in there. He was kind of, he was on a team, but there you go. Oh, no, this isn't the same one with the snake. But
that's Larry when he was an NCO.
1964 with Raymond Echeverria, who went MIA with ST Arizona, in fact. Very historic photo, yeah.
Okay. Well, that looks like, I can't remember if it was Andre Smith.
It was Andre Smith of Connecticut. Yes, sir.
Yeah. I guarantee you.
What a character that guy was as well, I've heard.
And I tell you, now that I look back on it, he kind of reminds me of Hulk Hogan. He was very muscular, big, not like most people. You know, people think that now you see all these SEALs and everything else, they're all bodybuilders and stuff. Back there in 1969, 70, we were just, you know, I mean, we were strong, healthy people, but man, there was no real bodybuilders. You know, a couple, but nothing like they have now.
I just found a picture of Andre's. This isn't Andre, but this is an Air Force fact. But that is Andre's snake. That's right there.
Exactly what he looked like.
Look at that, George. And at CCC, Joe Walker had Georgia.
When he brought that, and I kept thinking, I said, boy, I'm sure glad I didn't get on that team, because I wouldn't have stayed in that hooch one night. That big sucker going around. And it was so, I can remember too, I don't know if Keith remembers this or not, they had brought down a USO show to the NCO club.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody, you know, they had started drinking early in the day. Man, by the time that show started, everybody was shit-faced. And the people down there, I mean, there was no line drawn. They just do what they wanted to. And I can tell you, it got so rowdy in there, they had to shut that show down. They came back, said they were never bringing another USO show down to the projects, to Da Nang, to us. There would never be another show brought down inside. That's how bad it got. They almost had to have those people carried out, you know, under lock and guard. People were crazy. They were getting up on the stage with them, screaming, hollering, and drinking. Oh man.
Boy, it's like Animal House with guns.
That's it, you know. And that's another thing, you know, that especially now when you look back on it, I mean, there was weapons everywhere. Everybody had a gun. And every once in a while, you know, those Yards and the Vietnamese, they weren't real friendly with each other either. They'd have some little tete-a-tetes between themselves, and we just try and keep it to, you know, to a minimum where nobody got killed and messed up.
We've definitely heard some shootouts behind some poker games where people thought some cheating was occurring and batting down the hatches because they pulled pistols. And it always comes up another famous person that absolutely adored you, all of you soldiers, but it seems like she had a special place in her heart for SOG men especially. But could y'all tell us about Miss Martha Ray, the Colonel, shall we say?
Yeah, she was something else. I tell you what, she came down there right around Christmas, I guess, a little before maybe. I don't know. I don't know if it was before or after Christmas.
That was after that Christmas. We had that big party in the hooch truck. Right after that evening we got back on would have been Christmas Day.
Right. Like I say, I can remember that. And there's Jim Baldwin in there. And she came in there. I mean, she was just it was unbelievable. And she told everybody she had a house in California. If you were ever in there, you know, ever by there, just don't hesitate, stop. You can eat, drink, whatever you want. Stay as long as you want. I never took it up on it, but I want to say maybe I talked to Engine Adams, and he was going to try and go down there, you know, after he got out. So I don't know if he ever did, but yeah, she was really something else. And then ended up being buried out at Fort Bragg out of Fort McCall. So she really was a staunch supporter of you know, SF.
I know for a fact that numerous gentlemen, but I know a man personally who ended up staying close to her until she passed away. Captain David Carr, who was actually at CCN and FOB3. I think he was there with y'all for a period. He went and stayed with her for about a month, and he kept saying, I wonder when she's going to kick me out. And she never brought up, when are you leaving? Never.
Yeah, she was something else. I tell you what, she really was.
It's I recommend all of you guys, if y'all don't know about her and why she was such a legend, you need to go back and look at some of her old comedy and dance and singing routines. She was known as the Mouth, and just what a talented and just awesome lady she was. I mean, there's stories of her going into the A camps when the medics were under duress and couldn't work. She was medical qualified, and she'd get in there and start saving young men, both Vietnamese, Cambodian, or American. It didn't matter. She one hell of a woman.
Yeah.
It says a lot about the people that would take time out of their occupations and come and visit us, because at that time some of it wasn't very
popular at all.
Friendly in the United States about it.
No. And there she is, a rich, famous. I mean, and it's not just her. I've gotten Jason Hardy has shared numerous photos, but I mean, there were quite a few stars. Ironsides, I can't believe I'm forgetting the guy who played that famous detective. He had it before that, but he ended up being Ironsides. He was always visiting you guys, and that's going to make me mad. I can't remember him. I watched him in the hospital when I had my wreck a few years ago, but it's out. I always enjoy seeing the people taking time. Sammy Davis Jr. coming out there to see the Air Cav and the Rangers, just outstanding. But we do have some questions, and if y'all have stuff coming up or any stories that y'all think of, by all means interject and share. But one question, since we're talking about operations and such, Jed was curious about what were y'all's code names, SOG code names that y'all went by?
Mine was Constable.
Constable.
They told us to make up a name that you'd think it'd be hard for a North Vietnamese to say, and I guess that's what I come up with.
I like that one. That's a good one right off the top of the head, not picking one off the list. How about you, Mr. Chuck?
Yeah, well, I went by Red Rascal.
Perfect.
Kind of apropos.
Red Rascal. I had to mark that in Jason's book because he doesn't have that listed. That's beautiful. I love that. Let's see. Let's knock out a few questions. Some guys had a few, and then we're at about an hour mark. And I think maybe after questions, we can cover the Christmas mission in a little bit. And then maybe that'll leave enough for Mr. Chuck to do a solo show to where he can give us his full history. Okay. New fan awareness with Chris is curious. When Green Berets arrived in Vietnam, were they immediately approached by the projects Omega Sigma SOG as far as recruiting? How did that occur?
Well, mine, we were pretty much pigeonholed into where we're going. I don't think Sigma and Omega were maybe operating at the time, because I was getting there a little late. Probably when Chuck came in, they might have got. I know Gary Robb. He was in on Phoenix, I think.
Yes, sir.
And that time frame of those guys was probably about the last ones that had the opportunity to go to those programs, as far as I know.
When I came in country, like I said, I had just finished. Well, we'd finished at Reconnaissance school in Fort Bragg. That was like I forgot 5 weeks, 6 weeks anyway. So, and then I went home on leave. And then when I arrived in country, I didn't really have any choice. We got in, they sent us up to Nha Trang. Nha Trang said, you're going to CCN. They had some going CCS, CCC. But as far as for going to anything other than, and even when we got to Da Nang, as far as for going into anything except into a recon company, a recon team, that was, predetermined, I guess. Before.
I think just like Mr. Keith said in his interview, and I've spoken to Howard Sugar, some CCC guys, Moose Monroe or Dick Monroe, Moose Gross. I'm sorry about that, Scott. Dick Gross and Eldon and a few others had come back and were teaching that class. And it sounds like since y'all were put in that recon class, most of the guys like Howard Sugar, Mr. Keith, yourself, like you said, were immediately pigeonholed into SOG by going through that class. It sounds like to me.
Yep.
Yeah. Very interesting. I was glad to see that. I wish they would have done that earlier for the guys, but it sounds like you not going to 1-0 school, it was well enough taught a recon school in country or back stateside that you had no use for it.
Well, I think the Army was smart because they were gobbling the guys up that came back from SOG who had recent knowledge, because it changed from the earlier years in recon to what it was when Chuck and I were there, where it was getting tougher to even spend any amount of time on the ground at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr.
I was fortunate enough I went to the in-country Recon Team Leader School, I guess in the summer before Keith got there, I guess. I don't remember exactly when, but it was like a 3-week course. And I don't know, I think they took maybe 12, 15 at a time. I don't know when they did away with that, but I'd been in country, been out a few times before I went to the school. So, but I was glad that I got to go. It was, anything that could help you, it was well worth it.
Yeah.
I found that interesting. Guys like Mr. Keith, they run quite a few missions, and turn out to be great 1-0s and recon men without going to the school. Other men like Ed Walkoff at CCC, just numerous. And then the other guys that go as well and turn into also great 1-0s. It's just funny how some guys didn't go and probably should have gone since they were being not bred, but trained to take over a team. It's just weird how that worked out, but SOG's weird. Oh, I knew this was going to come up. Everybody's wanting to know about y'all and Nick. Nick talks about what a character Wesley was, Chuck Wesley, was with explosives. Were you all around the day that the electric blasting caps malfunctions and blew up the Jeep when Matt, Cook, Wesley were at the range?
No, I don't remember that. I must not have been around because I don't know how you would forget that. Of course, there was a lot of stuff going on between those three.
Oh, yeah.
You mean the Larry, Curly, and Mo?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll tell you what. They were a crew over there. It was something else.
That's I love hearing that. It's so great. See that era of CCN with the help of Mr. Nick's book has just made y'all into a legendary group of wild men and recon men. It's just outstanding. I mean, anytime we're talking about someone CCN, you guys come up, anybody mentioned in that book comes up, it's always great.
You mix in testosterone, a lot of explosives and ammunition, and just let the show begin.
There you go. Speaking of Mr. Nick had mentioned Billy Wall's infamous good deals and Mr. Larry and them. Did y'all ever get roped in, or did y'all ever have to hide out from one of Mr. Billy's good deals that he was offering y'all?
He was kind of like a ghost. He'd come in and out, and when it seemed like when he and Captain Larry got together, the meeting of the mind meld of the Klingons would get going, and I don't know where they dreamed some of this stuff up, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't in some think tank. It was probably just in the back of the orderly room.
Yeah. It's yeah. You just try to steer clear.
I think Billy used to say, if you're not coming back bleeding, you're not doing your job right, because you got to get in there and mix it up with them a little bit.
Lord have mercy. I'm not familiar with the man who replaced Mr. Billy, but were y'all still around when Sergeant Major Jones, who replaced Billy, took over? He sounded like he was a remarkable soldier to take over for someone like Billy Wall and Saul.
Yeah, Tom Jones was there. He came in after Billy left, and then there was what was his name? Pappy Weber, I think. And he was there for a short time, and then Billy Martin came in. Or Tom Jones, excuse me. Tom Jones came in.
Tom Jones, wow. I literally went blank on something I was about to ask you about that, and I hate that. I get brain farts more and more often. Well, until I think of it, how about we just crossed the hour mark? Would y'all like to kind of, since we've got both of you now, can y'all talk about the operation order, the process of when y'all decided y'all were actually going to have to go out on Christmas Eve and find out what y'all are going to find out?
Well, we were sent up. It was out of Fubai. I remember we did our isolation and everything. I flew the VR for it. I remember the FAC pilot, who was Hutchinson, mm-hmm. And we flew out of Da Nang. And Jessie tried to just go up, try to pick out an LZ or a hill we can stay on. And I remember we got in, and it was kind of cloudy for the VR. We'd be in and out, and the fact pilot, he knew the area real well, and he said, well, let's go look over here. We'll look from a distance and check it out. And I said, well, that's good. And I'm looking through binoculars at it. You ever look through binoculars when you're in a small plane and feel like you're going to throw up all the time? But I said, let's go down and take a quick look and see what it looks like. Well, we dove through a little hole in the clouds there, and we were maybe 300-400 feet off the ground. And there were people all over the place, and they were tracers and everything was going off by the O2, and he dodged back out of there. And I remember looking at me like, say, you dumb shit, you want to try that again or not? And I said, no, that's more than enough for me. Thank you very much. And then we went up, I believe we went up to Fubai like on the 20th or the 21st. I remember being at Da Nang airstrip. I don't know if Chuck remembers, but the USO show was coming into Da Nang, and here we had our den of thieves with us all lined up waiting to go to Fubai, and all of the pretty girls and everything were getting off of the USO, and the Montagnards were just crazed. So we headed up, and we headed to Fubai. Tried for a couple days to get in, a couple different days, and it didn't work out. Socked in and on our target, so we went. That's what I remember from going in on it. Yes. The only other thing, I don't know if Chuck remembers, usually we drove over from the launch site in a deuce and a half or something, but for some reason or other, Jesse wanted to walk over. I don't know if he was getting, a lot of people didn't know Jesse was actually supposed to be out of country when we went in. He was already supposed to have been DEROSED, but he wanted to take another crack at the North Vietnamese. So we started walking over from Fubai, just across the road and stuff to the shack where we got all the air assets and finalized our call signs, took our commo check with the pilots and the slick pilots, insert pilots, and we were about halfway over. And this is Christmas Eve, and of course it's the Christmas truce. No one's supposed to be doing anything, and we're all done up in our garb. And two black soldiers from the 101st were there. They started taking pictures. Frank Mariano was walking over with us. Frank was working the launch site at the time. And of course, you take a camera out with a Montagnard within 300 yards, they're going to start profiling and smiling and pulling shit out of their. And Frank stopped the two troopers from the 101st, and he says, "No pictures, no pictures." And they, of course, give Frank a little bit of grief about it. Well, Frank took one of the Montagnards and he babbled off a bunch of stuff. And Frank told him, he says, "I just told this soldier here, if I don't get those films out of that camera in 10 seconds, he says he's going to shoot both of you." And so it come out like a ticker tape parade after that. And then we went along the way. And I don't know if we ever, but Frank was in his in all his glory there. He was making sure that we were safe and stuff, and no pictures were taken of anything.
Wow. Yeah, it was something else. We had tried, and I can remember that's when Murph was flying Covey, he'd go out in the morning and, come back and say, "No, you can't get in. We don't know when, And we were just sitting around there waiting. And, then finally he comes in. They came in on that one morning and said, "Well, we think we can get you in and all." So that didn't sound real promising. We think we can get you in. I was more worried about, can you think you can get us out?
That's exactly right.
But yeah, like I said, you put your fate in other people's hands, and it really was, everybody was there to do the best they could. And they were all looking out for us, for sure. I guarantee you. I don't have any complaints about any of this stuff. But just, when you're waiting like a couple of days sitting around at launch site, you got all your stuff, packed up, loaded, you're ready to get moving. It puts a little, and then you don't go, and then they say, well, maybe tomorrow. It makes for a long wait.
Yeah, it agitates you a little, where you finally just want to say, well, let's get this over with, or let's get it going, or whatever we're going to do here.
Yeah. And yeah, that's how it gets down to, because, and thank God it worked out like it did. I tell you what, and thank goodness that we had the people, I just feel really blessed that I was with the people I was with, especially, the yards, especially, and Jessie and Keith. Everybody was, knew their stuff, knew what they were supposed to do, and everybody did it.
Were there any indications, or I know there are rumors of it, but were there any indications on the overflight or news or prior reports before y'all went in that there were a possibility that tanks would be in y'all's AO that night?
No, I don't think so. Murph, he would have had Don Murphy flying Covey. He would have had any, and they never told us anything when we got out of the shack there at Fubai and started heading out. Because otherwise we might have requested we just turn around.
Yeah, we might have requested an early extraction.
But we tried that, but Jessie says, no, I will stay since we still got lots of ammunition left. And I looked at Chuck and he looked at me and I said, what the hell are we going to do now?
Oh, yeah, I tell you what. Yeah, it was, I mean, now that you look back on it, it was, it was something else. When we went in there, it was, it wasn't, probably the easiest infill that I had ever done, but it wasn't that bad, after the air had come in there and cleaned it off a little bit, I don't think we'd have gone in if we'd have known, what they had.
I till to this day, I can't figure out why they kept throwing people down that road when, if they didn't know we were there, or if maybe some people that maybe were killed by air, some of their people who told them to stop. But boy, it was like a parade in downtown Hanoi.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like I said, when it started, and then once we got in and we got set up, and we started looking around, we knew that they had people all around us and shooting. But down on the floor, and it was a pretty good distance. When I got those binoculars and I started looking, and they had that highway, I guess it was going from north to south through the valley.
Yep.
But and another thing, when we got up there and we set up for a little while, those yards, it never ceased to amaze me how astute they were. When you look kind of down to the southwest, they had like a little creek or a stream going through there down at the bottom floor with a sandy bank on each side. And so some of the yards told me, and one of my favorite yards was Cree Kabur. He was a real joker and real nice guy. He said, look. And I looked down there, and it took me a minute, but they looked like ants. But you could see those North Vietnamese were crossing that little creek, coming up toward us, going to that side to come up on the south side of us, on the side of the mountain. And I said, would you look at that? But I mean, they weren't within range or anything. They were, they looked real small. So I said, holy shit. And then I kind of looked to the to the highway that was coming down the road, and then they had another. And I looked out there and I saw, I could see. I said, "Man, that's a lot of people coming down. Why would they come down the middle of the road where we could see them?" And as I looked, there was like a line, like a column of them coming. And I noticed there was like 3 or 4 of them that were, that looked out of touch. They were much taller than the rest of them. They had different colored uniforms. Man, I don't know if that's some Chinese or Russians with them or what, but I said, that's not just some North Vietnamese. And then after a while, I could see a vehicle coming, but I couldn't exactly tell if it was. I could tell it was a track vehicle. I don't know if couldn't tell if it was a tank or what. But I mean, and that was after we had some air come down there. They got on that road, and they saw us being put in, and they knew that we had some covey up there, I'm sure, and they knew that we had some air assets. Why they would come down that road, I have no idea.
I remember what Jessie did. We started counting people that were coming out, and after we got past 100, Murph up in Covey says, "Well, keep an eye on them, and when they get down to this point, down on the south part of that north-south road was a 546 or 548 or something like that." And he said, "When you see that lead part of that column get down there," he says, "we're going to put a bomb on them there, and we're going to put a bomb on them up on the north end." And then Murph had lined up a whole bunch of air, fast movers, A1s, everything. And they just raked that column between those 2 bomb sites for, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe. And after that, that's when I think Mac saw the tank and stuff. And when he said it, my asshole slammed shut so fast that I thought it was going to take all the air out of the 6x6 box and nothing could fly.
God. And I mean, y'all you said it was a easy insert, but I mean, y'all landed in amongst them, and then I think it was so crazy that you said Mr. Jessie was actually listening to the NVA on the radio forming plans.
Yeah, we had taken 2 radios in, and after a while I was running air on the targets that I could see, and he started surfing the channels to get try to get some North Vietnamese chatter on there, and then Cree, our interpreter, would stay with him, and he said, "These are where they're moving troops to," and stuff, and they'd get that coordinated, and Murph said, "Well, let them move them first," and then we'd hit them with bombs. And anytime they tried to get close to us again, other than that stuff that was down slope over by truck, there was a lot of automatic weapons fires down there. And then we just kind of kept after them until Murph left. And when he left, then things got a little bit worse.
Yeah, but we had that air support. We had the Cobra, those gunships, the choppers came in there blasting them, and then they were taking fire from something up behind us and higher up. And
yeah, on those hills back over in Laos, they were getting there, and then we had a bunch of heavy machine guns down slope from us. The one that I tried to toss the grenades in on early, when I bounced that one grenade back, and Chuck come over and said, "The object of this is for us to kill them."
Yes, strange stuff happens when that adrenaline starts pumping. You just it's something else. But like I say, and man, when those fast movers started coming through there, and we started seeing those along that road, and then started seeing those secondary explosions. I mean, it was just I wouldn't have wanted to be down there for sure.
No.
I guarantee.
When they called and asked they wanted us to go down and get a piece of the tank or something. And I mean, I looked at Chuck, and Chuck looked at me, and I was afraid Jessie was going to do it. And our 01, he told him, he says, if we go down to the floor of the valley,
We're dead.
we will all die. But if you want us to go down, we will. And I thought, my God. And I was afraid we're going to maybe have to plug Jessie, maybe shoot him in the leg or something, so he wouldn't want to.
Yeah, I can't even imagine that they came up with that when Jessie said that, you know, they want to see about doing a BDA down there, you know, we'll insert one or two. I said, man, where are these people from? Are they out of space? I said, they're all around us. We're up here. And then you want us to go down there where we done bombed the shit out of them, shot them up and stuff. And you're going to have to insert us by a helicopter, put us down. We're going to, you know, lose a helicopter, lose all of those people. I said, wait, you can't just put somebody down. I don't know what those people were on the other end of the radio, where they were from, if they'd ever done anything. But that was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard of in my life. I told them, I said, man, we can't. The yards really, they were really up when they heard about that. They didn't, you know, they knew for damn sure if we got started going down there, we weren't coming back.
Wanted to paint myself in invisible ink and so maybe we can just disappear into something here.
Yeah, it's
you know, we could probably see at any one time maybe 500 people running around down there.
Exactly. And they didn't kill them all. They were all, and it was in the woods. Once they got off the road, we couldn't see them anymore, really. You know, they were back in the bush and in the thing, but they had some kind of a compound down there at that crossroads where they had some, I don't know if it's a fuel depot or a bunch of stuff. But when the secondary explosion started going off, when they really started bombing them, it was kind of like that Apocalypse Now, you know. Now that you see it, you would think, man, that's what it'd be like if you were down there.
I remember I was calling in air, and I wasn't like Jessie. Jessie was pretty cool and calm, and I tend to snivel and whine and stuff, and probably wasn't using the call signs. And someone come on a radio and called whatever call sign we were supposed to be, and he says, you have to start using proper radio procedure or the enemy is going to be able to locate your position. You know, I told him, I don't know who the fuck this is, but every goddamn North Vietnamese from the Mugai Pass to Chu Lai is already here. I just stay off this radio so we can kill some of them.
Holy cow. I mean, just hearing them, the BDA for one thing, and then proper radio procedure. Anytime I hear that, I'm just like, well, what are these people thinking?
It's unbelievable. Like I say, and especially, you know, when we're there, you're down, almost down to the valley floor. We weren't too much higher than that. You know, we were up high enough, but I mean, still, you got, you know, we would be down underneath on both sides, get down to the lowest part of the valley onto the road where, you know, where everything was, all the action, and there's no, there's no way. Well, I'd have said, I would have told them what they should have done was gone in there. Once they got us out, get a B-52 strike going and run it through there. But at that time, and you see, that was near the end. You know, that was the end of the year, and man, SOG was down. We weren't running that many missions. You couldn't get in. There was so much activity, and then at the same time, you know, people were getting kind of down to the dumps. People were starting to rotate out, and a lot of people that were going back, you know, SF people that were going back. if you weren't re-upping and you didn't have enough time left, then you were getting orders to go back to be a drill sergeant or something, go back to the leg, or not going back to SF. So it was just everything had changed since, once they started that, that's when you knew that the end was near, that we were going to be pulling out, and us being over there, we didn't have access to really a lot of news and to what was going on. We just had, what they force feed you, come down from the top. And that's the kind of people that were force feeding, that wanted you to go in there and see what kind of damage you had done, and didn't have the wherewithal to know there ain't no way you're getting down. You might get down there, get one radio contact off and say, well, this is it. And then that would be it. So no, it was a strange part of life there.
Yeah, as it was, there was no way they would have let us live the evening on the hill. I know that.
No. Keith and them would handle it when Keith had to go down and when we were getting extracted and blow out that other tree and stuff. I mean, it was just, we were hanging on by a thread just to be able to get out of there. And now that I look back on it, it seems like I don't know how we got out of there.
No. I remember when we threw the Montagnards. One of my Montagnards, he'd had some shrapnel in his leg. Mm-hmm. And I was kind of getting him, and I took two of them with me when we got on the ladders. I liked ladders because I didn't like strings. I was only on strings once, but that was more than enough for me.
Yeah.
But I liked the ladders, and he said we rode ladders all the way back to Fubai.
Yep. Yes, the strings were, they had a lot of horror stories attached. It all depends on how quick it could get out. Sometimes, the chopper couldn't get up quick enough. I never experienced, but I heard stories like a couple of small people got caught. One had their leg pulled off, getting pulled out, and it's just, it's better than dying. I mean, you have to get out if they couldn't get down. But like Keith said, ladders, or if you could get on, that was the way. Wow. And then you could clip on with your rig. You could clip on. You didn't have to worry about falling off or.
It's Mr. Don Smurf Murphy, or Sluggo. I don't think he liked that nickname, but outstanding. One of the best covey riders that SOG had is probably a big testament also to why y'all got out. Those covey pilots and covey riders are literal lifesavers. I mean, jeez.
Yeah, most definitely. Like Murph said, he was, and Murph been in the Army a long time. He used to say the oldest E6 in the United States Army, all 3 times.
Holy cow.
That was kind of strange, like with Murph, that most of the people that were in recon were younger. Coming up, especially when I got there. I don't know about before that. And like I say, most of them were, just sergeants and stuff, no real senior NCOs. And then Murphy, he had a guy on his team from Louisiana, a guy named John Waters. And him and Murphy, they were kind of like Mac and Brockhaus, and, a duo, hell on wheels.
Mudhole Waters, what a guy.
Oh yeah, I had a picture. I'd given it to Murph of him and John. They were, and John Waters was from. He would say something about me, but he was kind of a redneck from North Louisiana. Everybody thinks down here Louisiana, coon asses and all, but about the middle state, Alexandria on up, it's more like Georgia. Yeah, there you go.
There's Mudhole and Hendricks.
Yeah. but there were some wild and crazy guys. He was too, I tell you what.
I've heard some stories about Mudhole and Hendricks for that matter. Both of those guys. What guys? I'm still trying to work on getting Mudhole on. He's been a little iffy on it, but I'm still trying. And then as we've got a few more questions, and then we'll close out because definitely not going to have y'all for 2 hours and beat the bush here, because we do want Mr. Chuck to come back. But speaking of it getting out of whack and crazy, I'm not sure if this is when Mr. Chuck had already DEROSED and Mr. Keith was 1-0. But I mean, there at the end when they were wanting to put Mr. Keith, Eldon, I think Bob in, and Eldon's like, no, we're not doing this. We'll all die, and we're not doing this. Wasn't it the A-Shaw again?
Yeah, that was a target in the A-Shaw, and they had changed our air assets, and then the people who were overseeing us, it's called SMAG, Special Missions Advisory Group. And I don't remember if that was some of the Monkey Mountain gang or not, but they wanted to put 3 teams down on the floor of the valley at once, and then somehow fight together and do some kind of damn Alamo or something there. I don't know. And Sinton, he needed another guy to go to his team, and Frank Mariano hadn't come down to be my 1-1 yet, and so I told Bob Sinton, yeah, I'll go with you, Bob. You know, Sinton was a hell of a god darn good. Here's him and John Elia. Mm-hmm. But hell of a good, solid 1-0, one of the best. And I told him, yeah, I'll go with you, because going out with Bob was going like going out with Eldon. It says you knew you were going to be taken care of, and things were good, but it got pretty crazy there at the end, and at the end there they canceled that mission. Thank God, because it would have probably been a disaster. We could have got in, we never got out.
Yeah. Thank God, you guys, Eldon and all that, had enough foresight and gumption to say no, we're not doing this. This is suicide. No. As if that we're not doing more dangerous enough missions. No, we're not doing this. A gentleman that is always popping up, and recently someone was asking, did any of you guys have either while CCN or at Bragg, did y'all have any contact with then Lieutenant, later on General Beauray?
Yeah, he was on, I think, with Kevin's. I don't know if he was with Kevin Smith. He was the first lieutenant when we knew him, of course.
RT Idaho with Frank Pulley for a while, and then sideline.
That's right. But he and you know, he never said too much. It was funny because you know, like Chuck said, there was maybe towards the end maybe 6 teams that were actually running. And you stayed within that little circle, and you probably had 5 or 6 good friends, and a lot of guys you hardly ever spoke to, even in Recon Company, because they were either gone somewhere else, or maybe they had a brew team when we had a Rod A team. Yeah, there's Frank there. I don't know who the other American is.
I've yet to figure out his name, unfortunately.
But there, it looks like... it looks almost like Vietnamese there. Maybe some Nung.
One of these gentlemen became, when Mr. Ken and Frank were unable to cross the border, one of these gentlemen, and all of the RT Idaho fans that know Tilt, one of these gentlemen became the first Vietnamese 1-0 of RT Idaho, actually. I can't pick him out. Somebody will tell us, but I was unable to pick it out. But that's pretty interesting.
I can't picture that other American.
Somebody, Rob Graham, the British gentleman who I love and respect greatly, he's got the name, and I will message him when we get off to figure out who that is. He was not a normal recon man. I forgot what he was. I think maybe a analyst. I think they may have been planning something was why he was there, but not a typical recon.
Lieutenant Bora, he was on one of those other teams where, at least for me, other than know who he was, and there was no rank structure then. You didn't run around saluting anyone, and the only time it changed is on payday.
That's another interesting thing about SOG. Everybody, of course, you respected the officers, but I mean, it wasn't like, heck, Spec 4 sergeants, were running teams, and if y'all did have an officer, they're taking orders from you guys.
The only other one there was Lieutenant Slifka, and he died there. That's up at Fubai there. But Slifka died. Chopper went down with the sentence team. Like in January or something, January or February.
Heck of a rescue op to get his body later on.
Yeah, I think Ron Turney's the one that fished him out finally. Ron Turney's from Walker, Minnesota up here.
Jason Hardy has a good write-up on that mission, and my Lord, what an operation. Okay, let's see here. We had a few more questions for you gentlemen, and we will wrap it up for the day. Jed was curious of SOG being betrayed by the spies, the Navy Chief Warrant Officer, the Walker family. How aware were you all that SOG had been compromised? Did you ever coordinate with insert pilots to conceal your actual LZ from Saigon?
I don't know.
I think for the best we could, we relied on our covey riders. We could give our brief down at the talk and stuff, and sometimes that was changed a little. We get up to Fubai or QT or wherever we were going, but you talk to the covey rider, and he said, "No, that's not going to be a good LZ. Now we have to go over here a little bit." So it would change a little bit. We relied on those covey riders so much more because, they were up flying over there every day and they knew what was going on, a change from week to week or whatever they had seen during that week. So he says, this might not be as good. If you still want it, we can, but he says, I'd suggest using this one.
Yeah, can you hold on 1 second? I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely.
But that's... we really relied on those covey riders because not only had all of them been good recon guys, but they knew what was going on up in the air there, and the covey riders would get a lot of info from their covey pilots because that was those guys' jobs every day out in Indian country.
Oh yeah, I've spoken to a few CCC covey riders that were out so much that they could tell if a tree had been bent over. They knew that area so much. Any inconsistency from the day or a few days before, they were on it like a hawk and knew something's going on here, and we don't need to put the boys down in this area right now.
Yeah, and you had good ones. You had like Gary, Robb, and Mike Taylor, that bunch over in NKP, and then you got the guys out of Quang Tri, and then the guys out of Fubai. They just being there every day and seeing different stuff and working with the different teams. They were just an encyclopedia of current knowledge, and current being the key thing. They knew what was going on in the last week or so.
Mr. Chuck, are you with us? Nope, he must be using the restroom. While we're here, I'm saving that last one because I would like to see what Mr. Chuck has to say on it. Did Dick Thompson and Lynn Black had instances where they actually had NVA or supposed Cubans call out their actual names and the team members? Were there ever instances where the NVA knew y'all were in the field and contacted y'all on the radio?
Not for me that I know of. I don't know if Chuck did or not. They take and just even hearing that stuff, you knew that there was a leak somewhere along the line.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I do know that's another thing. One time, I think it was before Keith came. That's what I forgot. Me and Jessie and Coy Reese had gone out. I don't know, they had just put us in. It was on a mountainside. We had gone in and we had got in that afternoon. It was late. We walked down we had found a trail up through the woods. So we got off of the trail and we were going to, bivouac that night on the side of the hill. We made a perimeter and we got in there, and man, it started raining. That's the coldest I've ever been in my life. And you couldn't move, we were it rained all friggin' night. The next morning, we got up, it had kind of stopped raining, started clearing a little bit. We got out, we walked up, we started walking the trail a little bit with Coy and me and Jessie. And Jessie came upon, we looked along the side of the trail, and they had a black wire running through there. And it was, I'm sure, some kind of, Vietnamese radio that they had run along that trail between different, different compounds and stuff. So we started taking, Jessie called and reported that we had seen it. And we said, maybe we'll cut it or something. Just, cut the thing and bring a piece. They said, no, just leave it as it is. Don't touch anything. And he said, we'll see about maybe trying to get somebody back in there, further along the trail, same point, and put like a tap or something on it. So we left it like that, and we started hearing some people coming. And so we were moving out to like an LZ, and then we started taking a little bit of fire. The covey came in, and we were going to have an extract. But in the meantime, the gunships were coming, and they started firing through there. They were shooting, I guess, at the 20 millimeter, 40 millimeter cannons. But anyway, some of the brass coming off of it, they went right over us. Some of the brass came down and hit Coy Pee-wee in the head, and he had a cut across his forehead from the friggin' brass off of a gunship. But anyway, we got out and all, and that's another thing. You really never heard, you never got any, any backfeed about, what happened. Was it a thing that they get back in and tap it or something? We never found that out.
Wow. What a story. And then catching a brass from a gunship.
Yeah, but Coy, I'll never forget that.
Gosh, I've heard he is a heck of a guy, or was heck of, I don't know if he's still alive, but I've heard he was one heck of a guy.
Oh, yeah. He lived, well, the last time I'd seen him was at Lamar Parker's funeral in Texas. And I think Coy still lives in Texas, or he was then. He was from somewhere around there. They had a bunch of people, not a bunch, but quite a few SF that showed up for Lamar's funeral over there by Buna in Texas. And one thing that really impressed me was Nick Brockhausen there, and they when we went to the grave site, Brockhausen had gotten with the funeral director, and he said before they dropped the casket in the ground, they wanted to, I forgot what they put in there. They put a gold coin and something else in Lamar's casket, which was for SF, I guess, for when he crossed over to the other side, where he'd have some money and maybe a weapon, maybe a knife or something. I'm not sure. But I said that was really, really something. And Lamar was, that's been a few years back when he was buried. But I saw Coy, talk to him, and
Howard Sugar loved Lamar Parker to death. I've got some great photos of those two when Lamar visited Khartoum. Great man. Sorry y'all lost him so soon like y'all did.
Yeah.
Lamar, he'd been shot up pretty bad.
Oh, yeah. He's had his cast on and was bandaged up still in those photos. I mean, what a guy.
Yeah, him and Kelly both. They had.
Oh, I forgot Mr. Don was with God. Yes. Jeez.
Exactly. Because Lamar's daddy, I think it was his daddy had died or his mama had died, either right before that or right after. And he had come back to the States for a week or so. And then Lamar was from Vidor, Texas, which is between Houston and New Orleans. And we had lived in Orange before, so I didn't know Lamar before we went over there. But after I had met him, we reminisced about that because he was so close. Lamar was something else too.
Amazing. It's love hearing these stories, even after SOG and all of y'all keeping up, even sadly at funerals. But gosh, what a group of gentlemen. Mr. Keith had mentioned this while we were speaking, and then in his interview, but would like to add you in on this final question, Mr. Chuck. Did y'all know about Full Row? And we know Mr. Keith and his efforts, but were there efforts made by some of you SOG men to leave assets to assist the yards, knowing that the Americans would have to leave them on their own to the Vietnamese?
I tell you what, when I listened to Keith's, I really had, and I've talked to Keith a bunch since we left Vietnam and so on, but I never realized what had gone on until I listened to Keith's podcast. And when he said how they had treated the yards, I was under the impression that when the yards left, they would be taken care of, and that we were going to try and, because a lot of people had left. We had a lot of weapons in our hooch that we weren't have. We had a little carbine, a chrome-plated barrel, and some other stuff, the AK. And I was under the impression that the yards would be able to, I never knew that we would do what we did to them. It really it bothers me that we would kick them to the curb like that. I mean, and just, send them on their way with nothing but the shirt on their back. And, they treated the yards, the Vietnamese treated the yards, I mean, really, poorly. They were like second-class citizens. I guess almost, you could use that corollary with how, the blacks felt that the whites treated them and all. That's the yards, and they weren't really, they were more Polynesian than they were Asian. So, but I couldn't believe when Keith told me when I heard that on there. They'd take them up there and just, they'd strip them down, get them out. Thank God Keith was there. At least he gave them something. He'd open the connects and they could at least give them something. I mean, Jesus Christ, I thought they'd at least send somebody back with them, an American with them. But like I say, you realize how things are in the world and politics and everything else when you're away from it. It's not the same as anyway. But I think about them a lot, and I sure hope that they're all right. But it's I feel that man, I just can't believe that we do that to them.
Yeah, we owe our lives to them, all of us recon types.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because I guarantee you, they would have given their life for us.
Exactly.
No question in my mind that any of them, if we'd have been out there, they would have never left us.
God,
it's the same with the Americans. It was such it was closer than family. The team, Keith, Jessie, and me were closer. There was nothing that one wouldn't do for the other.
God, That's so beautiful. And there y'all are, young men, kids essentially, and forced into this, and well, y'all volunteered, but it's amazing how, like you said, y'all became family, and those were your brothers, and it always makes me very sad to hear of the teams that were just get out and leave. It's very sad, very sad. But it's not y'all's fault. It's the government's fault. And I always try and say it's never the SOG men's fault. And if you know the stories of the SOG men that were unloading cases of ammo and guns and money and C4 and claymores down at Bambi Toohey, you change your sentence on that and correct it. But it's just terribly sad. But you guys are outstanding gentlemen, and I know. If they are still alive, I hope they still are. I know they hold y'all just as close in your heart, at their heart, as y'all do y'all's heart to them. It's just, I can only imagine what the reuniting you guys, that would be a dream come true if it would ever be possible. I would love to reunite you guys. God. Well, we have hit, we're about to hit the 2-hour mark here. I didn't think we'd go that long, but it's been a great show having you two together. Is there, Mr. Chuck, like I said, we're going to try and see if we can do a little solo show. It won't be 2 hours, but we'd like to know a little more history when we can do a solo show. But is there anything before we shut down today that you guys would like to share before we call it a day?
Well, it's so great to see Keith again, be with him and talk about it, in this kind of an atmosphere. It really is, thank you, bud. It really is a great thing. And to go back over it with somebody who was there with you and knew exactly what was going on, knew everybody that you're talking about and the situation, how it was. It's just, it really is great. One more thing I just want to throw in now. I had written this down that I wanted to do. The yards, we lived right by our camp was on the beach. We had a back barrier wall with some posts that were guarded to get to the beach. But when we were there, the yards used to go out there every once in a while. We weren't ever supposed to take any weapons off of the base or anything else. Several times we'd gone out there with them. We'd take some small mini grenades, and they would go fishing in the bay right there. It was, it's amazing how little they had and what would really they treasured. They'd go out there and would they'd throw a few little mini grenades. They'd swim out there. They never caught any big fish. It was all little small. But they would go out there, anything they'd see floating, they'd pick up, bring back, cook, and eat. I have some pictures of them with a duck. They were cleaning a duck, gutting that, and cooking that back in their compound. They were just a wonderful, as ferocious and vicious as they were as soldiers, and they could be. They were as kind and as placid as great people the other way too. They were just all around great. It's refreshing now when you look back on it and see that what they had to go through in their lives and all, and how they were just really great people.
Yeah, our lives are better by them letting us be with them.
That's it. Especially, I think that we came out on the gain end of that collaboration. We really came out for the best. And like I say, Keith and Jessie, they're salt of the earth. I tell you what, you couldn't get more. There was never any put on. And another good thing about Regan, there was no nepotism or anything like that. You do it, everybody, that was what you wanted to do. It's different when you get out in the real world and see how. That's what I liked about it, being all volunteer. There wasn't any of this, like when you go to work and people, do this and that, nepotism, and they're trying to eat you out. Everybody was working for one common goal.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Mr. Keith, anything you'd like to say before we close out?
No, it was the highlight of my life.
Yeah, you can say that again. That's one of the highest points in my outlook, was meeting Keith and Jessie and being able to interact with them the way we did. And they're fine. They were fine then, and they're fine now. And I never thought of Keith as a little popcorn fart, that he wasn't even 20 years old.
All you old guys corrupted me.
When I heard that, I said, I can't believe that he enlisted at 17. I never knew that. This has really been, an education for me too. You're doing a good thing, bud. Seriously.
I want to thank both of y'all. I've been trying to locate two teammates for a long time that would come on and talk to us, and to have you two men as outgoing, as knowledgeable, and as well as y'all's memory holds up and is intact. It's been just a beautiful thing getting, like you said, the person that was there with you, getting to talk about things that all of us would never get to hear about. I can't thank you for myself and the viewers for doing this. This means a lot to have two men that were on the same team come share with us.
And thank you, bud.
Oh, yeah, bud. I tell you, the only one thing could make it better is if Jessie would be here. And
I wish he was still alive. Us three never got together again. That's
no.
And that's sad, but we'll see him someday.
Hopefully. I might not be going up there where he's going.
Oh, come on now. Come on now. Come on now. You're gonna be up there in Valhalla with all the other legendary warriors, sir.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I think we found a good shut-off point here, and I'm going to keep staying in touch with you guys. And Mr. Chuck, I know you spoke a lot today, but everybody's still interested in hearing you do a solo show. I'm going to stay in touch with you about that now.
Okay, that sounds good. And I'm going to go through some more of those, through that picture album, and I'm going to send you some more stuff.
I can't thank you enough for doing that for me as well. Thank you.
Exactly. And Keith, too. Like I say, Keith is
good people. Good people. All righty, guys. I'm going to shut her down. And everybody, thank y'all so much for watching today. We're going to have Mr. Chuck back, and we might have Mr. Keith back. Who knows? But we'll be in touch with you guys, and hope y'all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks, bud.